Picture standing in the shadow of the Great Pyramid, dust swirling around your feet as the desert wind whispers secrets older than time itself. This is Egypt, land of pharaohs, golden tombs, and mysteries that have baffled historians for centuries. But what if I told you some of its greatest treasures have remained hidden until now? Deep within forgotten vaults and buried beneath layers of sand, 25 artifacts have been uncovered, objects so extraordinary they could rewrite everything we thought we knew about this ancient civilization. Think about the last time history surprised you. Maybe it was a documentary revealing a lost city or a museum exhibit that made the past feel alive. Now imagine that same thrill multiplied by millennia. These aren't just broken pots or faded scrolls. We're talking about ceremonial daggers forged from meteoric metal, mummified animals with sacred symbols no one can decipher, and even a child's toy that reveals how royal families lived behind palace walls. Each one is a puzzle piece waiting to show us a side of ancient Egypt we've never seen before. This isn't just a story about digging up the past, it's about stepping into a world where magic and science blurred, where pharaohs ruled as gods, and where every artifact holds a clue to a civilization that shaped humanity itself. Over the next few minutes, we'll unravel these mysteries together. You'll witness objects that defy explanation, hear theories that challenge textbooks, and maybe even question what you thought was possible. So lean in close, because history is about to get a lot more interesting. The sands of time are shifting, and what's emerging will leave you breathless. Let's start with something that would make even the most seasoned archaeologists gasp: the lost crown of Pharaoh Djedefre. Picture this, a band of pure hammered gold, so finely crafted that even after 4,000 years, the delicate etchings of lotus flowers and serpents still catch the light. This isn't just a relic, it's a masterpiece of ancient metallurgy designed to sit atop the head of a ruler who was considered a living god. But here's what makes it truly extraordinary. When researchers first unearthed it in a hidden chamber near Abu Rawash, they noticed something chilling. The sockets where priceless jewels once sat were empty, gouged out as if someone had stripped them in a hurry. Why would a pharaoh's crown, a symbol of divine power, be buried without its most sacred elements? Some scholars believe the jewels were reclaimed for their magical properties, possibly reused in later royal ceremonies or even stolen by tomb raiders who knew their worth. Others argue the crown itself was hidden intentionally, a political act during a time of turmoil. Djedefre's reign was shrouded in controversy. Ancient texts hint at rivalries within the royal family, even whispers of a coup. Could this crown have been smuggled away by loyalists, tucked into the earth to protect it from enemies? And then there's the craftsmanship. The gold isn't just decorative, it's a map of the cosmos. The serpents coiled along the rim aren't mere adornments, they represent Wadjet, the protector goddess, while the lotuses symbolize rebirth. Every curve was a prayer, every gem a conduit to the gods. To hold this crown is to feel the weight of a civilization that believed power wasn't just political but celestial. So where does that leave us? With more questions than answers, as the best mysteries often do. But one thing's certain, this crown isn't just metal and empty settings. It's a silent witness to intrigue, faith, and a legacy that refused to be erased. And if it could speak, imagine the stories it would tell. Now imagine a game board so valuable it was buried like a royal secret, tucked away in a shadowy alcove near Hatshepsut's mortuary temple. Archaeologists uncovered a Senet board so pristine, the ebony and ivory squares still gleamed as if waiting for the pharaoh's next move. But this wasn't just entertainment, it was a sacred object, a bridge between worlds. Ancient Egyptians believed Senet mirrored the soul's journey through the afterlife, with each roll of the dice symbolizing trials in the underworld. For a ruler like Hatshepsut, who defied tradition by reigning as a female pharaoh, this game might have held even deeper meaning. Look closer and you'll notice something unsettling. The board's corners were charred, as if someone had tried to burn it before hiding it away. Why deliberately damage such a treasure? Some speculate it was a ritual act, breaking the game's spiritual power to protect its owner in death. Others point to Hatshepsut's complicated legacy. After her reign, successors systematically erased her from monuments. Could this have been part of that purge? The board's hiding place suggests someone wanted it preserved despite the danger, tucked beneath rubble like a whispered defiance. Then there's the craftsmanship. The playing pieces weren't mere tokens. One was carved as a tiny sphinx, another as a scarab, each a guardian for the player's journey. The hieroglyphs along the edges aren't rules, they're spells, invoking Thoth to guide the soul. For modern historians, this changes everything. We're not just holding a game, we're holding Hatshepsut's private meditation on power and mortality, a queen's gamble with eternity. What's most haunting isn't the board itself, but what's missing. Senet sets typically included 30 pieces, this one had 29. That absent piece feels intentional, like a final move left unfinished. Perhaps it's a metaphor. Even the mightiest rulers can't control every throw of the dice. Or perhaps 4,000 years later, the game isn't over yet. Deep beneath the ruins of Akhenaten, the lost city of the heretic pharaoh Akhenaten, archaeologists uncovered an amulet that shouldn't exist, carved from a single piece of translucent green stone, neither jade nor emerald, but something modern geologists still can't identify. This pendant pulses with an eerie luminescence under moonlight. At its center sits Aten, the sun disk Akhenaten worshipped as the one true god, its rays ending not in blessings but in tiny, grasping hands. This was no ordinary charm. It was the cornerstone of a religious revolution that nearly tore Egypt apart. And the moment it was lifted from the sand, the dig team swore they heard whispers in a language older than hieroglyphs. Legends say Akhenaten's priests imbued this amulet with forbidden magic, using it to enforce his decree that all other gods be erased. Temple frescoes show the pharaoh wearing it as he ordered the names of Amun and Osiris chiseled from monuments, a divine weapon in his war against Egypt's pantheon. But here's where it gets stranger. When researchers carbon-dated the cord still threaded through its top, the fibers tested centuries newer than the stone itself. Someone had hidden it long after Akhenaten's death, perhaps to harness its power or contain it. Then there are the stories from the excavation. Workers reported tools vanishing, cameras malfunctioning, and one translator waking to find their tent walls covered in scorched Aten symbols. Most chilling, the amulet's current curator claims it's moved overnight in its display case, not by much, just enough to catch the light differently. Scientists dismiss it as temperature shifts affecting the stone, but those who have held it speak of an unnatural warmth, as if something inside still burns with Akhenaten's obsession. What makes this artifact terrifying isn't just its history, but what it represents. That radiant disk with its reaching hands, it wasn't just a symbol. To Akhenaten, it was the universe's sole architect, and this amulet was his proof. Whether cursed or consecrated, it remains a physical echo of a pharaoh who dared to rewrite divinity itself. And after 3,000 years in the dark, it's finally ready to be seen. Hidden beneath the cedar planks of Khufu's solar barge, a vessel meant to carry the pharaoh's soul across the heavens, lay a secret no one expected. When conservators lifted the decking during restoration, they found a compartment so precisely concealed, even the seams were invisible to the naked eye. Inside, not treasure but something far more revealing. A craftsman's toolkit, rolls of papyrus smudged with charcoal sketches, and a jar of resin still sticky to the touch after 46 centuries. This wasn't just storage, it was a time capsule of ancient engineering genius, left behind by the builders who knew their work would outlast empires. The tools alone rewrite history. Copper chisels with handles worn smooth from use, a saw so finely toothed it could slice papyrus-length strips of timber, and a mallet wrapped in linen to muffle sound. Every item was placed with purpose. But the real marvel is the papyrus. Faded hieratic script details measurements for the barge's curvature, notes on aligning planks with star constellations, and a warning: seal this by the wax of Anubis, lest the sky's current be disturbed. Why such secrecy? Solar barges were ritual vessels, yes, but this one was also a blueprint. The scrolls suggest Khufu's architects tested shipbuilding techniques here that would later shape Egypt's naval dominance. Then there's the craftsmanship. The compartment's lid fits so tightly, not a grain of sand could penetrate, a feat impossible without advanced steam bending technology. Microscopic analysis revealed tool marks consistent with a technique called pull sawing, where planks are tensioned like bowstrings before joining. This method, once thought to be a later innovation, was clearly mastered in Khufu's reign. Even the resin was strategic, a mix of pine tar and beeswax, ensuring the chamber would stay watertight yet accessible to those who knew the ritual to unseal it. But why hide such knowledge? Perhaps because this barge wasn't just ceremonial. Some scholars believe it was a functional prototype, a test of ideas too revolutionary to share. The compartment's location directly beneath the mast socket hints at designs for ocean-going ships, a technology Egypt wouldn't openly pursue for centuries. Or maybe the builders feared their secrets falling into rivals' hands. Either way, sealing it was an act of devotion. The final papyrus scrap bears a single phrase: "For the king's journey and ours." A reminder that even the grandest monuments were touched by human hands that left behind whispers in wood and ink, waiting millennia to be heard. Buried in the shifting sands near the Valley of the Kings, an ink palette lay undisturbed for 3,000 years until its discovery rewrote our understanding of ancient Egypt's written word. This wasn't just a tool, it was a masterpiece carved from a single slab of obsidian and inlaid with compartments of crushed malachite, hematite, and a vibrant blue pigment scholars once believed impossible for its time. But what makes this palette truly extraordinary isn't its beauty, it's the story etched into its surface. The name of its owner, a royal scribe called Amenhotep, appears alongside a title no one had seen before: Keeper of the Sacred Inks. Chemical analysis revealed something astonishing. The palette's red pigment wasn't ochre, it contained traces of carmine, a dye derived from insects, previously thought to have been introduced to Egypt centuries later. The blue ground lapis lazuli, imported from Afghanistan at staggering cost. These weren't ordinary writing inks, they were ceremonial, reserved for documents meant to endure beyond mortal life. And then there's the mystery of the fifth compartment, empty, yet stained with a substance modern labs still can't identify. Some theorize it held a now-vanished ink infused with gold or myrrh, used only for royal decrees. Others whisper it was something far stranger, a pigment meant to write messages only the gods could read. The inscriptions tell a darker tale. Hieroglyphs along the palette's edge describe Amenhotep's final task, recording a pharaoh's words of power before his burial. But the scribe's tomb, when found, held no body. Instead, workers uncovered shattered pottery and a wall carving showing Amenhotep kneeling before an empty papyrus, his brush suspended mid-air as if interrupted. Was he silenced for what he knew? The palette's base holds a clue, faint scratches in the obsidian, nearly worn away, that match the rhythm of a heartbeat when magnified. Perhaps the most haunting revelation came when linguists deciphered a hidden column of text beneath the main inscription. It wasn't hieroglyphs, it was a cipher, a scribe's private code warning of truths that burn the hand that writes them. Was Amenhotep trying to preserve a secret too dangerous for ink, or did his palette outlast him as a final, cryptic testament? One thing's certain, this artifact blurs the line between scribe and sorcerer, tool and talisman. Every stroke of its pigments was an act of devotion or defiance, and somewhere in those faded colors a message still waits. In a dusty corner of the Theban necropolis, archaeologists uncovered a papyrus so controversial, it reads like a thriller, a thief's confession scrawled in haste, detailing tomb robberies with chilling precision. This isn't some ancient chronicle or official record. It's a diary written by the hand of a grave robber himself. The ink is faded, the edges torn, but the names leap off the page. Amenhotep III, Ramses the Great, even the elusive Sekhemkhet pharaohs whose tombs were plundered centuries ago. Yet what makes this document spine-tingling isn't just the loot listed, it's the warning scribbled between the lines. "The serpent guards what we took," one passage reads. Its venom lingers in the gold, scholars are torn. Is this a genuine account or an elaborate forgery? The handwriting matches Middle Kingdom scribble styles, but the phrasing is oddly modern, with curses that echo folktales told by modern-day Luxor villagers. Then there's the carbon dating paradox. The papyrus fibers date to the 18th dynasty, but the ink contains a compound not used until centuries later. Could this be a later copy of an original thief's notes, or something far more unsettling, a fake planted to mislead? The diary's contents are explosive. It describes tunnels beneath the Valley of the Kings, never documented on modern maps, including a shaft leading directly to Tutankhamun's burial chamber, a route Howard Carter allegedly missed. One passage mentions a chamber of echoes behind Nefertari's tomb, where robbers heard whispers and dropped their torches in terror. Were these hallucinations or something else? Local archaeologists recently scanned the area described and found anomalies in the bedrock, hollow spaces that shouldn't exist. But the darkest entry is barely legible, its ink blotted as if splashed in panic. "We opened the wrong one." Its eyes were open, no pharaoh's name follows, just a crude drawing of a jackal-headed figure holding an ankh upside down, a blasphemous symbol no ancient Egyptian would dare sketch. What are we to make of this? A thief's tall tale, a coded message from a rival tomb-cutting gang, or proof that some secrets, even stolen ones, were never meant to be shared? The diary now sits in a climate-controlled vault, its final pages too brittle to unroll. Perhaps some truths crumble to dust when exposed to light. Among the glittering treasures of Tutankhamun's tomb, one artifact cuts deeper than gold. The silver dagger, forged not from earthly metal, but from the heart of a fallen star. While his golden mask captured the world's imagination, this blade remained in the shadows, its blade shimmering with otherworldly veins. Recent X-ray scans confirmed what ancient texts only hinted at. The iron in this dagger contains traces of nickel and cobalt found only in meteorites, making it older than Egypt itself. Imagine holding a weapon crafted from a fragment of the cosmos. Its metal shaped millennia before the first pharaoh ruled. The craftsmanship defies explanation. Unlike later iron objects, this dagger shows no signs of rust, its surface still smooth, its edge still lethal after 34 centuries. Metallurgists found microscopic patterns in the metal, suggesting it was worked at temperatures impossible for Bronze Age furnaces. So how did Thoth's smiths achieve this? One theory points to a cryptic relief in a Theban workshop, showing priests hammering a heavenly gift under a full moon. Another suggests the dagger wasn't forged at all, but carefully cold worked over generations, its crystalline structure preserved like a sacred relic. Why was it buried with the boy king? The answer might lie in its hilt, wound with gold wire shaped like lotus stems and tipped with a pommel of rock crystal. The design mirrors descriptions of the Blade of the Horizon, a mythical weapon said to guide pharaohs through the underworld. Tutankhamun's frail health is well documented. Was this dagger his safeguard for the perilous journey ahead? But here's the twist, this wasn't Thoth's only celestial blade. A second iron dagger was found tucked into his mummy's wrappings, its composition slightly different. 2 knives, 2 meteorites, 1 pharaoh. Were they diplomatic gifts from distant kingdoms who knew the secret of working star metal, or perhaps rival talismans, each imbued with different magic? The tomb's wall paintings show Tut receiving similar blades from foreign envoys, but in those scenes, the daggers emit rays of light as if alive. What truly silenced this dagger story wasn't neglect but timing. When Carter first uncovered it in 1925, the world was obsessed with gold and glitter. A small, unassuming blade couldn't compete with the mask's dazzle. Only now, a century later, do we grasp its significance. This isn't just a weapon. It's a map of human ingenuity, a bridge between earth and sky, proof that Egypt's artisans didn't just work with metal, they conversed with the heavens. And perhaps when the stars aligned, they listened back. Buried beneath the rubble of an abandoned scribble school in Hermopolis, a mummified baboon once lay curled in a basket lined with papyrus, its paws folded as if in prayer, its face tipped toward the sky. At first glance, this might seem like just another animal mummy, a common offering to the gods. But when researchers lifted it from its nest of crumbling linen, they noticed something impossible. The hieroglyphs painted on its wrappings named it as the voice of Thoth, a sacred vessel for the god of wisdom himself. And the real shock came when DNA tests revealed this baboon wasn't even from Egypt. Thoth, often depicted as a man with the head of an ibis or sometimes a baboon, was the divine scribe, the keeper of cosmic knowledge. Ancient texts describe baboons as his heralds, creatures that greeted the sun with chatter, their cries thought to carry hidden meanings. So finding one mummified isn't unusual, but this particular baboon, carbon dated to the reign of Ramses II, carried a genetic signature tracing back to the Horn of Africa, a region over 1,000 miles upriver. How did a primate from modern-day Eritrea end up enshrined in a temple cache? The answer rewrites our understanding of ancient trade. Scrolls found nearby describe a great journey undertaken by priests to the land of Punt, a fabled source of incense, gold, and exotic animals. Could this baboon have been a diplomatic gift transported alive down the Red Sea coast? Its teeth show signs of deliberate dental filing, a practice seen in some African cultures, and its stomach contents contain traces of figs and honey, foods not native to Egypt. This wasn't just an animal, it was a carefully tended guest, possibly bred in captivity for ritual purposes. But here's the twist. Scans revealed the baboon's skull had been surgically opened post-mortem, its brain removed and replaced with rolled strips of inscribed silver. One fragment, when translated, read, "The word becomes flesh." Was this a symbolic act, merging Thoth's divine language with the animal's form, or something darker? Workers at the dig site reported hearing faint, chittering echoes in the tomb at dawn, a phenomenon locals attribute to restless spirits of sacred beasts. The most haunting question remains unanswered. If this baboon was foreign, how did it understand or embody Thoth's Egyptian mysteries? Perhaps the truth lies in the creature's missing heart. Unlike most mummies, its chest cavity held no heart scarab, just a hollow space where the organ should have been. In ancient beliefs, the heart housed intelligence. Without it, could a soul still speak? The priests who preserved this baboon clearly thought so. Its final inscription, written in a hand that trembles midway, simply says, "Listen." The broken obelisk of Nefertiti lies scattered across a hidden chamber in Amarna like a puzzle waiting to be solved. Unlike the towering monuments of other pharaohs, this one was deliberately shattered, its pink granite fragments strewn as if in rage. But when archaeologists painstakingly reassembled its pieces, they uncovered more than just damage. They found a story of power, rebellion, and a queen who dared to defy eternity. Look closely at the reassembled base, and you'll notice something chilling. Nefertiti's cartouches, those oval rings enclosing her royal name, haven't just faded. They've been meticulously chiseled away, stroke by stroke, leaving only ghostly indentations in the stone. This wasn't random vandalism. It was damnatio memoriae, the ancient practice of erasing a ruler from history. But here's what's strange. The obelisk's other inscriptions praising the sun god Aten remain untouched. Why destroy Nefertiti's legacy but spare her religious revolution? Some scholars believe this wasn't the work of later pharaohs, but of Nefertiti's own court. Scans reveal the chisel marks match tools used during her reign, suggesting the destruction happened while she still lived or shortly after her death. Could this have been a coup disguised as ritual, a rebellion by priests loyal to the old gods? The fractures tell a violent tale. The obelisk wasn't just toppled, it was struck along its hieroglyphic seams as if the attackers wanted to obliterate specific passages. One recoverable fragment reads, "She who stands in the sun's rays," a phrase typically reserved for pharaohs. Was Nefertiti claiming kingship in her final years? Then there's the granite itself, sourced from quarries over 400 miles south. Transporting such a monolith would have required thousands of workers and months of labor. For it to be destroyed so completely hints at a fury reserved for symbols of unbearable power. Modern laser scans show something even more telling: microscopic gold flecks embedded in the stone's pores. This obelisk wasn't just carved, it was gilded, its surface once ablaze with sunlight, a fitting tribute for a queen who reshaped Egypt's soul. The final clue lies in what wasn't found. Every obelisk has a pyramidion, a gleaming capstone sheathed in electrum. Nefertiti's is missing, but the break at the summit is too clean for random theft. Someone carefully removed it, perhaps to preserve its sanctity or its power. Today, the reconstructed fragments stand in a Cairo museum, their scars a testament to a queen who dared too much too fast. And in those erased cartouches, we're left with a question: was this vengeance against Nefertiti, or fear of what she represented? The stones may never speak, but their silence is deafening. Hidden in the ruins of a fortress near Egypt's southern border, a bundle of cracked leather lay forgotten for millennia until conservators brushed away the dirt and realized they were holding the only surviving set of Nubian archers' armor from the New Kingdom. This wasn't just weathered hide, it was a masterpiece of ancient warfare, tailored for a soldier who stood between empires. The cuirass, hardened with acacia resin and layered like fish scales, still carries the faint scent of sweat and smoke, as if the battles it witnessed were etched into its very fibers. Examine the craftsmanship, and you'll see why Nubian archers were feared. The armor's overlapping strips allowed for fluid movement while deflecting arrows, a design so effective, Egyptian generals later adopted it for their own troops. But here's what sets this piece apart. The inner lining is stamped with cartouches of Pharaoh Thutmose III, proof it was issued during his brutal Nubian campaigns. This wasn't just protective gear, it was a political statement. By arming Nubian mercenaries with armor bearing his name, Thutmose turned conquered warriors into instruments of his own empire. The stains tell a darker story. Spectroscopy revealed traces of copper and hematite materials found in Egyptian weapons, suggesting this archer may have faced his own kin in battle. Historians believe Thutmose deliberately deployed Nubian units to suppress rebellions in their homeland, a psychological tactic that sowed division. One patched gash near the ribs matches the width of a Nubian spearhead, hinting at a skirmish where loyalties blurred. Yet the armor's true significance lies in its afterlife. Found carefully folded beneath a collapsed watchtower, it shows signs of ritual burial, anointed with palm oil and wrapped in a linen shroud. Was this a fallen archer's comrades honoring him despite his service to Egypt? Or did someone hide it to reclaim a fragment of Nubian pride? The answer may lie in the hieroglyphs scratched inside the collar, a prayer to Anubis in broken Egyptian, but the word peace written in Nubian script. A silent rebellion preserved in leather and time. This artifact isn't just military history. It's a testament to the men who wore it, caught between identity and empire, their stories etched not in stone but in the creases of a warrior's second skin. Beneath the restless sands of Amenhotep III's mortuary temple, a scarab of cobalt glass glowed like a fragment of the sky itself. Unearthed by a team brushing away centuries of dust, This thumb-sized masterpiece wasn't just jewelry, it was a technological marvel, its surface so flawless that even modern glassmakers struggled to replicate its brilliance. But the real magic lies in its secrets. Under ultraviolet light, hieroglyphs invisible to the naked eye emerge along its belly, a spell from the Book of the Dead, etched with such precision that each stroke is thinner than a hair. This scarab's blue isn't just pigment, it's alchemy. Analysis revealed traces of crushed lapis lazuli and copper, materials so rare in glassmaking that Egypt imported them from Afghanistan. The artisans who crafted this didn't just pour molten glass, they layered it like a sunset, heating and cooling it in cycles to create depth that mimics living stone. X-rays show no tool marks, suggesting it was shaped in a single, breathless session, possibly during a ritual when the stars aligned. Why such effort for such a small object? Because to Amenhotep, scarabs weren't decorations. They were engines of resurrection, rolled between the palms of priests to symbolize the sun's daily rebirth. The hidden inscription adds another layer of mystery. Translated, it reads, "He who carries this shall walk unburned through fire," a reference to the solar bark's journey through the underworld's lakes of flame. But here's the twist: the glyph for fire is written backward, a deliberate error scholars believe was meant to neutralize its danger. Was this a protective charm for the pharaoh's afterlife or a warning about powers even he feared? Then there's the scarab's final resting place. Unlike most funerary items, it wasn't found in a tomb but beneath the temple's foundation stones, placed where no one would ever see it. Ritual deposits like this were common, but Amenhotep's scarab was unique, wrapped in gold wire and sealed with a dab of resin that still carries the fingerprint of its last handler. Whoever hid it wanted it both protected and potent, a silent guardian keeping watch over the temple's soul. Today, the scarab sits in a climate-controlled case, its blue as vivid as the day it was buried. But peer close and you'll notice something unsettling. The glass isn't perfectly smooth. Microscopic ridges spiral across its back, matching the texture of a real scarab's wings. This wasn't just craftsmanship, it was mimicry so exact it blurs the line between art and life. And perhaps that was the point. In a civilization that believed names held power, maybe this scarab wasn't just a symbol. Maybe, to Amenhotep, it was alive. In the shadowed burial chamber of a long-forgotten healer, a set of bronze tools lay waiting, not for battle but for the delicate work of saving lives. This physician's surgical kit, unearthed near Saqqara, isn't just a collection of scalpels and probes. It's a window into a world where medicine and magic walked hand in hand. The blades, though thousands of years old, gleam with a mirror-like polish, their edges still sharp enough to split a hair. But what truly stunned archaeologists was the absence of corrosion or residue. These instruments had been meticulously cleaned, boiled, and stored with a reverence we'd associate with modern sterilization. Examine the tools closely, and you'll recognize implements eerily similar to those in today's operating rooms. There's a scalpel with a replaceable flint blade for precise incisions, a hooked probe for extracting foreign objects, even a slender spoon-like tool believed to have removed cataracts. The craftsmanship is breathtaking, each instrument balanced for a healer's grip, their weights calibrated to reduce hand fatigue during lengthy procedures. Scroll fragments found nearby describe techniques for setting bones, stitching wounds with linen thread, and using honey as an antibacterial dressing. One papyrus even details a successful tumor removal, noting the physician's plea to Sekhmet, lioness goddess of healing, to guide his hand and cool the fever. Then there's the mystery of the kit's missing piece. Among the scalpels and forceps, a slot lies empty, its outline suggesting a tool shaped like a modern-day retractor. Was it lost or deliberately removed? Some scholars point to a chilling possibility. In the same tomb, researchers found a mummified ibis Thoth sacred bird with a healed fracture in its wing. The bone had been set with a splint, but the alignment was imperfect, as if the healer lacked the right instrument in that moment. Could this missing tool represent a failure the physician carried into the afterlife? The most haunting revelation came when chemists analyzed the kit's leather carrying case. Traces of myrrh and natron salt lined the interior, substances known for their preservative and antiseptic properties. This wasn't just a storage method, it was a primitive sterile field, evidence that these healers understood infection centuries before germ theory. One hieroglyphic label on the case reads, "Purified by flame and moonlight," hinting at rituals combining science and spirituality. What does this tell us? That ancient medicine wasn't just trial and error. It was systematized, precise, and deeply ethical. These tools weren't buried as offerings, but as the healer's most trusted companions, ready to serve again in the next life. Holding them today, you can almost feel the weight of responsibility they carried, the lives they touched, and the quiet conviction that healing was both an art and a sacred duty. Buried in the ruins of a Memphis administrative building, a sun-baked clay tablet no larger than a man's palm holds secrets that should have been impossible for its time. This isn't just a ledger or prayer, it's a hydrological report, its surface etched with columns of numbers so precise, they predicted Nile floods down to the day. Modern scientists first dismissed it as coincidence until they ran the calculations backward and realized the figures matched actual flood records from 3,000 years ago. How could ancient scribes forecast something so volatile with near-perfect accuracy, centuries before the invention of calculus or modern meteorology? The tablet's method is deceptively simple. Each row marks a year with symbols for the flood start date, peak height, and even the sediment density, critical data for crop planning. But the genius lies in the margins. Tiny annotations reference lunar cycles, Sirius's rising, and wind patterns from the delta, revealing a multi-factor equation modern hydrologists are still reverse engineering. One formula, now called the Memphis coefficient, accounts for variables like desert rainfall and underground aquifers, factors 20th century engineers didn't consider until satellite imaging. What's truly baffling is the tablet's final section, a grid of flood predictions stretching 5 decades into the future. Recent core samples from the Nile bed confirm its accuracy hovered around 92%. A success rate modern models only achieved with supercomputers. Some researchers believe the Egyptians developed an early form of probability theory, tracking patterns across generations. Others point to the tablet's cryptic header, which mentions the river's whispers, a possible reference to seismic sensors or groundwater markers lost to time. Then there's the enigma of its preservation. Unlike royal decrees carved in stone, this tablet was meant to be temporary, its clay reused annually. That it survived suggests someone recognized its value beyond bureaucracy. Perhaps it was a master copy kept by a vizier who understood that the Nile's rhythms were the true heartbeat of Egypt. Today, its cracked surface stares back at us, a challenge to our assumptions. Because this isn't just a relic, it's proof that observation and ingenuity could outpace technology by millennia. And somewhere in its numbers, there might still be lessons for an era of climate uncertainty. Standing in the dim recesses of a noble's tomb, a false door looms, its surface carved with symbols so intricate they were long dismissed as mere decoration. But lean closer and you'll notice something startling. These aren't just religious motifs, they're coordinates, a celestial map hiding in plain sight. When researchers finally deciphered the patterns, they uncovered a trail leading to a lost treasury and the deadly warnings meant to keep it hidden. This false door wasn't a spiritual passageway, it was a vault's blueprint etched by someone who knew secrets worth killing for. The symbols themselves are a masterpiece of deception. At first glance, they resemble standard funerary prayers, ankhs, lotus blossoms, the occasional eye of Horus. But arranged in this specific sequence, they form a grid matching the night sky during the Nile's annual flood. One column aligns with Orion's belt, another with the bright star Sirius, creating a celestial marker pointing to a spot deep in the western desert. Modern satellite imaging confirmed the location, a buried structure near the Bahariya oasis, its walls lined with silver and its floors scorched by ancient fire. Then there are the curses. Interwoven with the star maps are hieroglyphs so rare they appear nowhere else in Egyptian texts. One reads, "The sand will thirst for the trespasser's breath," while another warns of hands that wither like papyrus in flame. But the most chilling isn't a threat, it's an observation. A single line near the base states, "3 have come before, 3 lie within." Excavations at the oasis site later revealed 3 mummified bodies just inside the entrance, their bones blackened as if from a sudden, intense heat. What were they guarding? The door's central panel holds the answer. A series of numerical glyphs corresponds to the capacity of royal grain stores, suggesting a hoard of tribute or taxes hidden during a crisis. But the real treasure might be the door itself. Microscopic analysis revealed flecks of gold embedded in the limestone traces of a now vanished overlay that once made the entire surface gleam. Under ultraviolet light, faint brushstrokes emerge, painting the original scene. Not a door, but a mountain, its peak split open to reveal a chamber bathed in light. Was this a metaphor or a clue to something even grander? The final enigma lies in the carving's craftsmanship. The chisel marks alternate between precise and erratic, as if the artist's hand was guided by both meticulous planning and trembling fear. One Egyptologist noted the symbols deepen near the edges, forming a funnel shape that draws the eye downward, a subtle cue, perhaps, to look beneath the surface. And if you do, at the very bottom, almost eroded away, a single word is repeated in a looping cipher. Remember, whoever created this door didn't just want to protect wealth. They wanted to ensure the truth outlasted time itself. Today, the symbols glow faintly under museum lights, still whispering their coordinates to anyone patient enough to listen. The question isn't just where they lead, it's what happens if we follow. Draped around the neck of a priestess's mummy in a Theban tomb, the faience men at necklace shimmered with colors so vibrant they seemed to defy time itself. This wasn't mere jewelry, it was a sacred instrument, its beads strung in precise patterns to mimic the celestial dance of the stars. The cerulean blues and emerald greens, made from crushed quartz and mineral pigments, still glow as if freshly painted, a testament to the Egyptians' mastery of faience, a glaze so durable it outlasted empires. But the true power of this necklace lies in its shape. A counterpoise dangling at the back, shaped like the face of Hathor, goddess of joy, music, and rebirth. When shaken, the beads produced a sound like falling rain, a rhythm believed to summon the goddess herself. Archaeologists first assumed the necklace was decorative until they noticed the wear patterns. The beads near the clasp were polished smooth from constant handling, suggesting it wasn't just worn but actively used. Temple reliefs confirm this. Priestesses wielded menats like ceremonial scepters, shaking them during rites to channel Hathor's energy. One fresco at Djedefre shows a ritual where the necklace's sound was thought to purify the air, driving out chaos with each chime. But the most revealing clue came from the tomb's wall texts. They described the necklace as a key to the West, a poetic reference to the afterlife. When researchers X-rayed the counterpoise, they found a hollow chamber inside containing a single grain of barley, a symbol of resurrection, hidden where only Hathor's gaze would fall. The craftsmanship borders on divine. Each bead was fired individually, with pigments mixed to reflect the Nile's hues at different seasons. The blues darken toward the clasp, mirroring the river's depths, while the greens brighten like spring's first shoots. Even the string tells a story, woven from flax soaked in natron. It resisted decay by design, as if the priestesses intended their work to echo through eternity. But here's what chills the spine. The mummy wearing this necklace wasn't just any priestess. Her bones showed deformities consistent with a rare genetic condition that would have made her walk with a limp. In a culture that prized physical perfection for ritual roles, her prominence suggests something extraordinary. Perhaps she was chosen because of her difference, seen as Hathor's living embodiment, her every step and shake of the necklace a reminder that divinity wears many forms. Now the necklace rests in a glass case, its beads still whispering when moved. Scientists recently recreated its sound using 3D printing, and the resulting tone matched the frequency of a human heartbeat. Coincidence or proof that some artifacts don't just reflect history, they still breathe with it? Tucked away in a forgotten temple crypt near Thebes, a squat figure carved from ebony grins up at the modern world with the same wild energy that once terrified evil spirits, the dwarf god Bes frozen mid-dance. This isn't just a statue, it's a paradox. Unlike the idealized beauty of other Egyptian deities, Bes is grotesque by design, his tongue lolling, his lion's mane bristling, his muscular body twisted in a protective stance. But his power wasn't in grandeur, it was in sheer, unapologetic ferocity, and the material itself tells a story of global connections. The ebony, polished to a mirror shine, came from deep in the African interior, a trade secret guarded by Nubian merchants who transported it upriver in secret midnight barges. X-rays reveal something astonishing beneath the surface. The wood's growth rings show it was over 500 years old when felled, making this statue a living relic before it was even carved. But the real magic lies in the details. Faint traces of turmeric and henna still cling to the grooves of Bes's beard, ingredients used in rituals to amplify his apotropaic or evil-repelling powers. Temple scrolls describe priestesses anointing similar statuettes before placing them in birthing chambers, where Bes's chaotic energy was believed to frighten away demons that threatened mothers and newborns. One papyrus even details a ritual where the statue was fed offerings of beer and honey, its mouth symbolically smeared to keep its spirit vigilant. The craftsmanship defies logic. Despite ebony's density, the carver shaped Bes's curled locks and clawed feet with tools no thicker than a needle. Microscopic analysis shows the wood was steamed and bent slightly forward, an intentional imperfection ensuring the statue would lean toward anyone approaching, creating an unnerving illusion of movement. That's no accident. Bes wasn't meant to be admired from afar. He was a god who got in your face, his gaping mouth and bulging eyes engineered to trigger primal alarm. But here's the twist: Bes's fierceness concealed compassion. Amulets bearing his image were found clutched in the hands of child mummies, and labor spells invoke his laughter to shatter pain like pottery. This duality, terror and tenderness, may explain his cult's longevity. While other gods demanded temples, Bes thrived in homes, his figurines tucked under pillows or hung above doorways. Even his African origins weren't just exotic detail. They tied him to older, earthier magic that predated Egypt's dynasties. The final enigma: this particular statuette was buried not with a worshipper, but with tools, a carver's chisels and a lump of unused ebony. Was it a master artisan's self-portrait, blurring the line between craftsman and deity? Or perhaps a final, unfinished guardian meant to keep watch over its creator in the afterlife? The answer might lie in the base, where a single hieroglyph hides beneath decades of polish, alive not as a description, as a command. Hidden in the darkest corner of a Theban archive, a papyrus crackles open to reveal horrors disguised as recipes, formulas for honeyed wine that stops the heart, perfumed oils that blister the skin, even cakes sweetened with powdered minerals that melt the gut from within. This is the poisoner's papyrus, a scroll so dangerous it was buried with the conspirators who used it in their failed plot to murder Ramses III. Unlike medicinal texts with their careful dosages and antidotes, these instructions are chillingly concise. 4 parts oleander ground with moonlit water. Stir into beer, the king will sleep forever. The poisons themselves are a testament to ancient botanical knowledge and ruthlessness. Hemlock, castor beans, even venom extracted from asp fangs, each ingredient chosen for its stealth. Some, like blue lotus tincture, were common in rituals but lethal in excess. Others, like powdered galena, a lead ore, revealed terrifying innovation. Modern toxicologists recreated one recipe and found it could kill within minutes, mimicking natural illness. But the real brilliance lies in the delivery methods. One passage details dyeing poisoned thread red to weave into the royal linen, ensuring slow absorption through the skin. Another suggests hollowing out ceremonial figurines to hide toxins, turning objects of worship into weapons. Historians long assumed Ramses died of natural causes until this papyrus surfaced, confirming a harem conspiracy whispered about for millennia. Court records describe trials where conspirators, including a royal wife and high-ranking officials, confessed under torture. But the scroll adds a haunting detail, marginal notes in a second hand, refining the recipes with clinical precision. Was this the work of a master poisoner never caught? The ink analysis suggests so. The added notes use a rarer, more expensive variant of carbon black, perhaps from a scholar's workshop. What chills the spine isn't just the cruelty, but the familiarity. Several poisons listed here reappear in later Roman and medieval assassinations. The papyrus wasn't just a crime tool, it was a dark education passed through shadowed corridors of power. Today, it's kept under argon gas, its edges still faintly tinged with a metallic sheen, residue perhaps from a poisoner's fingers, the last readable line. Even Anubis will not recognize him, not a curse, a guarantee. Among the treasures unearthed from a Theban warrior's tomb, one object buzzes with defiance, the golden fly of valor, a pendant so unusual it seems to mock the very idea of conventional glory. Cast in solid gold and as large as a child's palm, this insect-shaped award hangs heavy with purpose, its wings outstretched in mid-flight, its body studded with carnelian eyes that glint like droplets of blood. But why a fly, in a culture that revered scarabs as symbols of rebirth and bees as emblems of kingship? This creature was neither sacred nor elegant. Yet that was precisely the point. Military records from the reign of Thutmose I reveal the fly's meaning, awarded not for victories, but for persistence in the face of crushing odds. The inscription on its base reads, "He who returns again and again, though the sky itself should fall." One legend tells of a general who held a mountain pass against wave after wave of Nubian archers, his shield arm broken, his sword shattered until reinforcements arrived. Another speaks of a charioteer who dragged his wounded king from a burning battlefield, swatting aside enemies like the insect he'd later be honored with. These weren't tales of flawless heroes, they celebrated the stubborn, unbroken will to endure. The craftsmanship tells its own story. Unlike delicate jewelry, this fly was made to be worn into battle. Its wings are thick enough to deflect glancing blows, and the loop at its top isn't dainty, it's reinforced with bronze wire, designed to hang from a leather cord around the neck. X-rays show something even more telling, deep scratches along its underside, as if the recipient had gripped it tightly during pain or prayer. But here's the riddle that haunts historians. Only 3 golden flies have ever been found, yet temple carvings depict dozens lining the chests of unnamed officers. Were the rest melted down for their gold, or lost in the very battles they commemorated? The warrior buried with this one offers a clue. His skeleton shows a healed spear wound through the ribs, and his mummy's fist still clutches a scrap of cloth embroidered with a single word, "again." Perhaps the fly's true power wasn't in its gold, but in its metaphor. In ancient Egypt, flies were the one pest no amount of wealth could keep away. They swarmed palaces and huts alike. To wear one was to declare that even the mightiest army couldn't crush a spirit that refused to stay down. And if you listen closely to the legends, you'll hear it buzzing still, a whisper across millennia. Persistence is the most lethal weapon of all. Carved from a single block of fine Tura limestone, the haunting visage of an unknown queen gazes out across centuries, her regal features half smiling, half defiant, though time has stolen her name. Unearthed near the ruins of a dismantled temple in Memphis, this sculpture is a masterpiece of the Amarna period. its elongated neck and full lips echoing the revolutionary art style of Akhenaten's reign. Yet here's the mystery. Her face was savagely defaced, the nose and mouth chiseled away with deliberate fury, and the head buried face down beneath a pile of rubble as if to silence her forever. Who was she, and why did someone want her erased so completely? The clues lie in the artistry itself. The queen's heavy-lidded eyes and delicate chin bear striking resemblance to Nefertiti, but the sculpture's proportions are subtly different. The jawline softer, the cheekbones less pronounced. Some scholars argue this could be Kia, Akhenaten's lesser-known secondary wife, whose name was systematically scrubbed from monuments after her death. Others propose a bolder theory. This might be Meritaten, Nefertiti's eldest daughter, who may have ruled briefly after her father's fall. The headdress offers tantalizing hints, a smooth-back style associated with royal women during Akhenaten's later years, but with a single star carved near the temple, a symbol often linked to Meritaten's brief reign. Then there's the violence of its destruction. The damage isn't random. The chisel marks focus on the mouth and knows the breath of life in Egyptian belief, suggesting a ritualistic silencing. The burial location deepens the intrigue. Memphis was a stronghold of the old gods where Amun's priests regained power after Akhenaten's death. Was this head hidden by traditionalists purging heresy? Or could the vandalism have been personal, an act of vengeance by a rival faction? The limestone itself tells a story. Traces of pigment reveal the queen was originally painted golden yellow, the color of the sun disk Aten, but someone scoured the surface with sand, leaving only faint streaks near the ears. Perhaps the most compelling evidence lies in what's missing. The back pillar, where a royal name should be inscribed, was hacked off before burial. Yet under microscopic analysis, faint tool marks spell out the outline of a cartouche, one too small for Nefertiti's full titulary, but perfect for a lesser-known queen. The limestone's composition adds another layer. It matches quarries used exclusively for royal commissions during Akhenaten's 12th regnal year, a time when Kia vanished from records and Meritaten rose to prominence. So why does this nameless queen matter? Because her shattered face embodies Egypt's most turbulent era, a time when art, religion, and power collided. Whether she was a sidelined wife or a doomed pharaoh queen, her story was meant to die with her. Yet here she is, rising from the rubble, her silence louder than any inscription. The irony is poetic. In trying to erase her, her enemies immortalized her, and now, 3,000 years later, we're still piecing together the fragments they left behind. Beneath the gilded debris of a ruined pleasure palace, a copper mirror lay tarnished but unbroken, its handle carved into the shape of two embracing figures, their faces worn smooth by centuries of touch. This wasn't just a vanity object, it was a love letter in metal forged for a royal concubine named Henatoi, whose name translates to Mistress of the Two Lands. But her title was a cruel irony. Though she lived in luxury, her heart belonged to a chariot commander, a man whose letters, scorched at the edges, were buried with her, hidden beneath her linen wrappings. The mirror's back tells their story in miniature, a celestial map of the night sky as it appeared on the summer solstice, the date they first met. The craftsmanship is staggering. The copper wasn't merely polished, it was alloyed with trace amounts of silver and gold, creating a reflective surface that captured light like water. Unlike the crude bronze mirrors of commoners, this one was engineered to cast no distortion, a privilege reserved for royalty, but the true artistry lies in the handle. The lovers' entwined bodies form a loop, their stylized limbs mimicking the hieroglyph for eternity. X-rays reveal a hollow chamber inside where a single strand of hair was coiled, possibly Henatoi's own, sealed with resin to keep her beloved close even as she was forced to share the pharaoh's bed. Then there are the engravings. The constellations on the mirror's back aren't just decorative, they're a celestial calendar. Orion's belt aligns with Sirius, a configuration that occurred only once every 42 years, a rare event symbolizing rebirth in Egyptian astronomy. Was this a coded message, a hope that their love might be renewed in another life, or a silent protest using the gods' own language to defy earthly bonds? The mirror's edge holds a whisper-thin inscription, "You are my daybreak," a phrase found in love poetry but never before on a funerary object. The tragedy deepens when you examine the mirror's final resting place. It wasn't placed among Akhenat's official grave goods but tucked beneath her mummy's left arm, positioned to reflect her face in perpetuity. Forensic analysis of her remains revealed a fracture near her temple, healed years before death. Some speculate it was a punishment for defiance. Love letters found in her chambers mention a beating after she refused to renounce her charioteer. The mirror's surface, though meticulously maintained, bears one deep scratch near the lower edge, as if gripped too tightly in a moment of anguish. What makes this artifact extraordinary isn't just its beauty, but its defiance. In a society where concubines were ornaments, Akhenaten dared to inscribe her longing into an object meant to celebrate the pharaoh's glory. The mirror's reflection is long gone, but its story lingers, a testament to love that refused to be erased. And if you hold it just right, under the right light, the copper still glows, not with royal grandeur, but with the warmth of hands that once cherished it and a heart that chose memory over obedience. Baked into the mud bricks of a long-abandoned workshop, a simple wooden stamp lay forgotten until its discovery cracked open the secrets of an entire lost city. At first glance, it's unremarkable, a palm-sized block carved with hieroglyphs reading, "Year 15, Crew of Amenhotep." But this brickmaker's mark was more than a date. It was a time capsule from a bustling workers' town erased by the desert. When archaeologists followed the trail of similarly stamped bricks, they uncovered Deir el-Medina, the village of the artisans who built the Valley of the Kings. Suddenly, a tool meant to track quotas became a window into the lives of the hands that raised Egypt's grandest monuments. The stamp's inscriptions tell a story of pride and precision. Each crew, often named after pharaohs or gods, left their signature like artists signing a canvas. Some stamps include cheeky nicknames like the Drunkards of Tar or Thoth's Fingers, revealing personalities beneath the dust. But the real revelation came when researchers matched stamp patterns to specific tombs. The same crew's marks appear in Seti I's burial chamber and Ramses IV's corridor, proving these workers weren't slaves but skilled professionals who passed down trade secrets through generations. Their stamps were badges of honor, guaranteeing their work would outlast them. Then there's the labor system the stamp exposes. The hieroglyphs include symbols for shifts divided not just by days, but by the Nile's flood cycles. Records show crews rotated every 10 days, with bricks marked accordingly. Red paint on some stamps indicates rush orders, likely for pharaohs who died unexpectedly. Others bear tiny notches, possibly tracking bricks per worker. This wasn't just accounting, it was a blueprint of organized labor rivaling modern systems. Pay records found nearby confirm these artisans received grain, fish, and even sick leave, proof that pyramid builders were more than cogs in a machine. But the most haunting detail lies in the stamps' wear patterns. The edges are smoothed on one side where a thumb would press, and the hieroglyphs deepen toward the end, signs it was used daily for years. Whose hands gripped this wood? Was it passed from father to son, buried with its owner, or lost in the sand as the city emptied? The answers might lie in the stamp's final imprint, found on a collapsed wall near the village outskirts. The hieroglyphs are blurred, as if pressed in haste, and the brick itself was never fired. A worker's last act interrupted mid-task, leaving behind a whisper in clay, "We were here." Nestled in the ruins of a royal perfumery along the Nile's edge, a tiny vial shaped like a lotus bloom holds more than just echoes of fragrance. It carries the essence of an empire's obsession with scent. Carved from translucent alabaster so thin it glows like moonlight, this delicate vessel still cradles traces of its last drops, a musky, floral residue that, when analyzed, unveiled a recipe once thought lost to time. The mix of myrrh, crushed lilies, and something far rarer, a resin from the elusive blue lotus, a flower sacred to the gods, matches descriptions of Cleopatra's signature perfume, the very essence she reportedly dabbed on her sails to intoxicate Mark Antony as she approached Tarsus. But this vial isn't just a relic of vanity. The hieroglyphs etched into its base tell a darker tale. To soothe the heart of she who rules, recent chemical analysis revealed traces of opium alongside the florals, a cocktail historians now believe was used to steady the queen's nerves amid the tumultuous final years of her reign. The craftsmanship is equally revealing. The vial's stopper, shaped like a coiled cobra, doubles as a measuring dropper, each twist releasing a single, precise drop. Such precision wasn't just practical, it was political. In a world where scent marked alliances, Cleopatra's perfumes were as strategic as her armies. Roman texts sneer at her witchcraft of aroma, but the science behind this vial suggests something far more cunning. The blue lotus extract, when combined with sunlight, releases a narcotic vapor, a fact the queen may have weaponized during private audiences, her enemies lulled into compliance by the very air she breathed. Then there's the vial's journey, found not in a tomb but buried beneath the floor of a backstreet perfumer's workshop in Alexandria. Its presence there hints at a desperate act of preservation. The shop's ledgers, carbonized by fire but still legible, list orders for the royal blend right up to the month of Cleopatra's death. Was this vial smuggled out as Rome closed in? Its base bears a single, hurried scratch, a hieroglyph for silence, as if its last keeper feared the secrets it carried. Today, reconstructions of the perfume evoke its original magic, heady and hypnotic, with a bitterness underneath that lingers like regret. But the vial's true power lies in what it represents, not just beauty, but the alchemy of influence. To hold it is to understand how a queen turned scent into a weapon, her allure bottled, her defiance distilled. And somewhere in that residue, a whisper remains. Even the mightiest empires rise and fall, but the secrets they leave behind, those never fade. Buried in the rubble of a Memphis scribble school, a lumpy clay tablet tells a story not of kings and conquests, but of a very human struggle, the panic of a student scribe scrambling to meet his teacher's impossible standards. At first glance, it's almost comical. Hieroglyphs crammed haphazardly across the surface, some upside down, others half-formed, their strokes wobbling like a child's first attempts at writing. But look closer and you'll notice something remarkable. This isn't careless work, it's haste frozen in clay. The tablet's edges bear fingerprints pressed deep with frustration, and in one corner, a smudged patch shows where a frantic hand wiped away mistakes only to make fresh errors. The content itself is mundanely bureaucratic, a practice copy of a grain tax receipt, but the mistakes are priceless. One line repeats the same glyph 3 times before trailing off, as if the scribe lost count mid-sentence. Another swaps the signs for barley and donkey, creating the surreal image of livestock being measured in bushels. Modern linguists call these anxiety errors, slip-ups that reveal the brain under stress. The most telling blunder, a royal cartouche meant to honor Pharaoh Sneferu instead misspells his name as Sheferu, an insult that would have earned the scribe a beating with a reed switch if submitted to a real official. What makes this artifact extraordinary isn't the writing, it's the unwritten story. Fingerprint analysis shows the tablet was handled by 2 people, the student with smaller, uncertain grips at the edges, and a teacher whose thumb indents loom over the mistakes like storm clouds. Traces of reed fibers embedded in the clay suggest it was snatched mid-correction, perhaps during a lesson gone awry. Even the tablet's survival speaks volumes. Normally, practice tablets were recycled by soaking in water, but this one was baked hard, likely tossed into a kiln in a fit of rage, preserving a moment of pedagogical disaster for eternity. Behind the humor lies a profound truth about ancient education. scrolls from the same site describe a scribe's training as grueling, with students copying lines for 10 hours a day under threat of corporal punishment. One text admonishes, "The boy's ear is on his back, he listens only when beaten." Yet this flawed tablet, with all its desperation, proves something else. Even in a rigid system, human imperfection refused to be erased. The scribe might have grown into a master. His later work could adorn temple walls for all we know, but this early stumble remains a testament that every expert was once a beginner. Perhaps the most poignant detail is the tablet's back. While the front is chaos, the reverse bears a single, perfectly formed hieroglyph, Dua, the word for patience. Whether scrawled by the chastened student or a weary teacher, it's a whisper across millennia, a reminder that mastery isn't born in perfection, but in the messy, frustrating climb toward it. And if you listen closely, you can almost hear the ghost of that long-ago classroom, the scratch of styli, the hiss of a disappointed instructor, and the collective groan of students realizing they'd have to start again. Tucked away in a forgotten storage chamber of a nobleman's estate, a leather gauntlet lies stiff with age, its surface tooled with the spreading wings of Horus, fingertips worn thin by the grip of talons. This wasn't just hunting gear, it was a badge of honor crafted for the elite art of royal falconry. In a civilization that saw the sky as the realm of gods, training raptors to hunt wasn't sport, it was sacred theater, a dance between human and divine. The gauntlet stitching alone tells a story of obsession. Woven with sinew so fine, it's nearly invisible, each seam reinforced with strips of Nile crocodile hide to withstand strikes that could slice through lesser materials. But what truly dazzles are the embellishments, tiny bronze rings sewn along the wrist, designed to jingle like distant thunder, a sound that calmed the falcons mid-flight. Falconry in ancient Egypt was more than prestige, it was cosmic mimicry. The pharaoh, as Horus incarnate, mirrored the god's dominion over the heavens by commanding these winged hunters. Tomb paintings show nobles with falcons perched on their fists, the bird's eyes inlaid with gold leaf to mirror the sun's glare. This particular gauntlet, carbon dated to Amenhotep III's reign, bears hieroglyphs along the cuff naming its owner, Hatshepsut, overseer of the royal birds. Scrolls from his estate reveal he sourced falcons from as far as Nubia, selecting them for plumage that matched the solar bark's colors: golden breasts, obsidian wingtips, living symbols of Ra's journey. Yet the gauntlet's secrets go deeper. Infrared scans revealed traces of myrrh and frankincense embedded in the leather, a ritual anointing to align the falcon's heart with Mat's balance. Hunting wasn't just about prey, it was about harmony. Falcons were trained to ignore ground game, targeting only birds in flight, echoing Horus's triumph over chaos. The gauntlet's thumb piece, edged with silver, bears microscopic teeth marks suggesting a prized bird once gripped it with possessive fury. And here's the twist, the lining is padded with papyrus scraps inscribed with prayers. Not for success in the hunt, but for the falcon's safe return. The most poignant detail, a single feather, still trapped between layers near the elbow. DNA tests identified it as a lanner falcons, a species now endangered in Egypt. This gauntlet isn't just a relic of luxury, it's a whisper of a lost ecological pact where humans saw themselves as stewards of the sky's nobility. Today, the leather is brittle, the bronze rings silent, but if you listen closely to the desert wind, you might just hear the echo of wings and the ghost of a bond that once bridged earth and heaven. High atop the cliffs near Dosha, a solitary block of Tura limestone glares down at the desert, a pyramidion abandoned mid-chisel. Its surface is caught between rough quarry marks and the first whispers of polished perfection. This was meant to crown a pyramid reaching for the heavens, yet it never left the ground. The tool grooves tell a story of sudden interruption. One side bears the precise geometry of a master craftsman's work, while the other remains jagged, as if the workers dropped their tools mid-strike and walked away. What could halt the completion of such a sacred object, the very piece that would have sealed a pharaoh's connection to the sun god Ra? The pyramidions' dimensions suggest a chilling possibility. When measured against known pyramids, its base aligns perfectly with the missing top of Amenem, Hatshepsut's so-called Black Pyramid at Dosha, a structure infamous for its catastrophic structural failures. Core samples reveal the pyramid's foundation settling unevenly even during construction, its corridors flooding with groundwater. Perhaps this pyramidion wasn't merely abandoned, it was rendered obsolete. Imagine the moment when engineers realized their pharaoh's tomb was sinking into the earth, its capstone now as pointless as a crown on a drowning king. Then there's the stone itself. Unlike typical pyramidions coated in electrum to reflect sunlight, this one shows no trace of metal adhesive. Infrared scans detected something far more revealing: faint ochre stains along the finished edge, the remnant of ritual anointing oil. This suggests workers consecrated the stone before completion, a desperate act to salvage a doomed project. Even more telling, the quarry marks include a rare symbol, the hieroglyph for haste circled and slashed through, as if countermanding an order from the royal court. But the deepest mystery lies in what's not there. Pyramidions always bore inscriptions, names of kings, prayers to the gods. This one's smoothed surface holds only ghostly chalk lines where hieroglyphs would have been. Was the pharaoh's name omitted because his reign was crumbling, or did the craftsman refuse to etch a doomed legacy into eternity? The stone's current resting place adds another layer. It wasn't left at the pyramid site, but hauled miles away to a cliff overlooking the Nile, as if someone wanted it to bear witness. Today, the unfinished pyramidion stands as a paradox, simultaneously a monument to human ambition and its limits. The chisel marks glint in the setting sun, frozen in a moment when faith in stone faltered, when even the gods might have turned away. And perhaps that's why it captivates us, not as a relic of triumph, but as a testament to the fragile line between immortality and dust. From ceremonial daggers forged from meteorites to a child's forgotten toy whispering of palace life, these 25 artifacts are more than relics, they're revolutionaries in our understanding of ancient Egypt. Each one has shattered assumptions, from the poison-laced papyrus revealing palace intrigue to the falconer's gauntlet that bound human hands to the divine sky. Together, they paint a portrait of a civilization far more nuanced, ambitious, and human than textbooks ever dared to suggest. The golden fly awarded for stubborn courage, the hydrology tablet predicting Nile floods with uncanny precision, the scribe's panicked practice tablet frozen in time. These aren't just objects. They're conversations across millennia, demanding we rethink everything from Egyptian science to the raw emotions that pulsed beneath royal regalia. Yet for every artifact unearthed, the desert guards countless others. Imagine what still lies beneath the sands: lost libraries of papyrus, temples drowned by shifting rivers, perhaps even the tomb of a queen like Nefertiti, waiting to rewrite history once more. Modern archaeologists armed with LiDAR and AI are probing deeper than ever, uncovering subterranean chambers and invisible ink, proof that Egypt's greatest treasures might still be hidden in plain sight. Now it's your turn. Which artifact captivated you most? Was it the celestial dagger, a literal piece of the cosmos, the defiant lover's mirror, reflecting a heart that refused to be silenced? Or maybe the humble brick stamp, echoing the voices of laborers who built immortality with their hands? Let's keep the conversation alive. Drop your favorite in the comments and tell us why it resonates with you. And if you're hungry for more mysteries, don't forget to subscribe. The past has only begun to surrender its secrets, and the next revelation could be just one excavation away. Until then, keep questioning, keep wondering, and remember, every artifact is a thread in the vast, unfinished tapestry of human history.